I wanted to do a separate stream this week for, taco travel tips for those coming to Japan, but maybe we can just talk about it right now a little bit. First travel tip to Japan, if you haven't left yet actually, make sure you fill out the Visit Japan website's custom and immigration on their website ahead of time. Yeah, Visit Japan web. They allow you to fill out the customs and immigration ahead of time, and after you complete it, you will get a little QR code. And the QR code saves a lot of time. A lot of time. If you have Wi-Fi on the plane, you can do it on the on the airplane too. You can do it after you land too. Technically, you can do it. I think it was 48 or 72 hours before you fly out. So do it ahead of time. Saves a lot of time when you arrive because there's gonna be a lot of people at the airport. Hi, Mama Nis. She's watching. She's watching, guys. Act natural. If you are unaware or not familiar with the train lines, their names, etc., rather than just knowing what name they are, take note of what color and what symbol that line is. It's like a visual cue, because especially for example, like Shinjuku Station, it is chaotic, not only because it is, the biggest station, I think it's the biggest station, right? Has a lot of lines, a lot of stations nearby, and very complicated. And what also helps is knowing the difference between the companies, the different railway companies. So if you take train lines that are not of the same company, you're gonna have to tap out and then tap in again. So sometimes it'll be confusing. Sometimes you'll have to walk out the station and walk a little bit before you get into another line. And they technically say it's the same station, but sometimes it's not. Yeah, Tokyo Metro is different from JR line. Be aware of that. Of course, if you happen to have an Apple phone, you can get Suica on your phone. Unfortunately for Android users, you cannot. I looked everywhere, but it seems like in order to have Japanese transportation IC cards on your Android, you have to have bought your phone in Japan because they use a different type of NFC chip or something like that. But Apple, you can do it. But I think they said that the Suica cards are back in stock. So if you could, you should get that. There's a different type of Suica card only tourists can get. It has a nice Hello Kitty on it. I don't recommend getting that unless you want it as a souvenir, because the use for that is very limited. I think it has a 1 month use date, so you can't use it after a certain number of days. You can't get the amount in that card refunded if you have left over. It looks nice, but honestly, it's not as good as a normal, IC card like Passmo or Suica. From what I know, I used to use Passmo when I first visited Japan, and the good thing about that is that you do have a deposit when you first get the card, but the money in there doesn't expire until 10 years or something after your last use of that card. So technically, if you use the card in Japan, you bring it home, and you happen to go back to Japan within 10 years, you can still use that card again. If you like Japan, I assume you'll go back once in 10 years or something, right? Sometimes, you don't want to carry cash around at times. You can load up that card and use that IC card, that same Suica card that you use for travel. Convenience stores and a lot of stores that actually accept IC cards. So when in an emergency, let's say you somehow lost all your cash, but you happen to have your Suica card with you that you loaded up, you can technically still buy stuff with it. Majority of the restaurants I've gone to accept it. The only ones that don't accept it is probably one of those restaurants that you have those little ticket vending machines in the front where you have to pay in cash. Aren't IC cards regional? Nope, you can use your IC card basically anywhere in Japan that accepts them. There are places in Hokkaido, I remember, where you could only use the IC cards until certain stations, and then beyond those stations you have to use, the actual tickets from the station. But it's It's widely used. You could even use IC cards like Suica cards on crane machines. But don't do that, because you might not have enough money to go home. You will run out of money very fast. Google Maps is very useful. What you can also do is download an offline map of Tokyo, so you can have the maps when you don't even have connection at times. And what I like about Google Maps too is that you could also create like a bookmark folder. So if you are going to a couple places, whatnot, you can mark all the places down in that bookmark, and you have quick access to very efficient list of places that you want to visit, etc. Offline map is very useful, especially because, you know, Japan has frequent earthquakes, etc. So when, you know, if there happens to be, you know, a natural disaster and the signals go out, you can still have that map with you and you won't get lost. Which brings up the next question. I do suggest that you do look up a very, you know, rough guideline of what to do during an earthquake. For me, I, you know, always lived in a place that did not really get earthquakes, so I don't know what to do in terms of what to do when it happens. So having a very, you know, even a little bit of knowledge could really help you in desperate situations. So when it does happen, don't panic. One of the things that Japan has, I guess, prepared a lot for is earthquakes, because they get a lot of it. I honestly think more problems occur when a place is not prepared for the earthquake. But if you're in bigger cities, especially in Tokyo, etc., I think you should be pretty safe, because the majority of the buildings in the big cities are actually built for big earthquakes. So don't panic. I, being a very, not really nervous, but paranoid traveler sometimes, also look for evacuation sites ahead of time. And like around like my hotel or apartment, just in case, you know, you never know when it's helpful. So if you're paranoid like me, this is one more thing you can prepare. Better safe than sorry, you know. Honestly, a lot of restaurants, unless you go to one of those that I mentioned that only accepts cash with the little vending machine for the tickets, most of them accept credit cards. And one tip I would like to give frequent travelers, I don't know if it works for any banks or all the banks. If you are traveling and you want to use your credit card overseas and you're scared it's gonna get blocked by your bank, use your credit card at the airport before you leave your city or country. I don't know if it actually works or not, but it does give your bank kind of a, oh, maybe they are traveling, instead of this random transaction that shows up, you know, in Japan all of a sudden. Even if it's something really small, I know it's expensive, but you know, just use it a little bit. It does give them, if the bank, a little heads up. You know, maybe you're buying something in Japan and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, my card's not working, I have no cash. You know, it saves a little bit of time. It's not only Japan, it's like when you're traveling in general. I do recommend using your card at the airport at least once. So you could call your bank ahead of time, but if you're like me, if I'm like you and you're like me, I don't like phone calls. So but if you want to be really like, you know, for sure that your card is gonna work overseas, then it's probably safest to call them. But if you're like me, I just buy, you know, a little candy or something I'll eat on the flight. There are like 7-Eleven ATMs and stuff where they take foreign debit cards and you can withdraw money from your account, etc. So it's not the end of the trip if you forget to bring enough cash or whatnot. A bunch of cards don't have fees with the 7-Eleven ATM, so be aware of that. If you forget, you know, your toothpaste, toothbrush, hairspray, hairbrush, honestly, a lot of the stuff is in the konbini. They're very convenient. And if you happen to be a little tight on your wallet during the trip and you want to save even more money than spending on konbini, I suggest you look up some grocery store / supermarkets. They're basically like, normal supermarkets, but they do have a bit of cheaper stuff. Their prices are usually lower. So you could go search for a grocery store on Google Maps. Search for restaurants in English. Of course, the usual list will show up. But if you want more choices, look up what you're looking up in Japanese, at least once. Because some restaurants in Japan don't show up in English. So search it in Japanese also if you want more choices. Oh yeah, another tip is for addresses to your hotel or wherever you're staying, write down the English version, and then if you can find it, also copy paste the Japanese version, save it somewhere on a notepad or something. Because in the chance, like if you have, like I wouldn't suggest taking taxi in Japan that often because taxi is really expensive here. But if you do have to, it really saves the trouble of trying to, communicate with the taxi driver if you don't know Japanese. So you could just show them the notepad with the Japanese address on it and they will know where to go. Also, if you're lost too, I think, I guess more people are able to read the Japanese and are able to help you. A lot of your tips are about how to avoid interactions, but it's also just like a quality of life thing when you're traveling to places. You do still interact with, the people there, but it's like a smoother interaction, Picking good restaurants, don't only look at Google reviews, but you can also check Tabelog. Tabelog is like a cross-reference of if a restaurant is good or not. If you look at Tabelog and you see those ratings that don't go over 3.2, that's normal. On Tabelog, if you get over 4, it's like one of the best restaurants you'll ever find in your life. I have to say, I've only went to a restaurant once that was above a 4.0. So it's very rare. And that's years of traveling to Japan, so. A nice phrase you could ask when you walk into a restaurant, especially if you see a lot of other foreigners around, you could always ask, do you have an English menu? 英語メニューありますか? Because there are a lot more restaurants these days that actually prepare an English menu for us foreigners. And it has helped me tremendous amount of times because although I speak Jojo, I guess, I can't read a word. Therefore, I cannot read whatever is written on the menu sometimes. So, sometimes they'll offer it to you if you seem like you're traveling, but for people like me, sometimes I have to ask. Sometimes they'll have a little tablet and you order stuff electronically. And, most of those tablet things usually have an English button that you can switch to. So be on the lookout for that. But I also gotta say though, that this kind of applies a lot in touristy areas, the big cities, But if you do go to places that are a little further out, if you're adventurous, they are probably not gonna be as suited to new travelers, I should say. So be aware of that. Google Translate definitely helps. Also if you wanna catch someone's attention if you're asking for help. For you guys, I think it's probably best if you go sumimasen. It's excuse me. It's basically the same as excuse me, sorry to bother you. And then you point to your phone. Can you tell me how to get here? I think being polite definitely helps. And I think even if you know very few phrases, it really helps break down, some barriers between when I'm traveling somewhere and the locals there. It's a very, very strange but very nice thing where language kind of creates a connection between people. So even if you don't speak a language fluently, I definitely, whenever you're traveling, I guess overseas where you don't speak their language, at least knowing a few phrases can really help. Yeah, and don't be disheartened if they, screen you and walk away. You just gotta go next. And I'm sure there will be someone out there who isn't afraid to help if you look lost. You just gotta look confused and brave yourself and say sumimasen to the nearest person who looks nice. You never know, you might just run into a foreigner who looks like they're local but speaks fluent English and knows where everything is. Like Ninomae Ina'nis, who happens to like helping people at train stations randomly when they need help. Speaking as a person who takes rejection personally sometimes and don't like asking people for, directions and stuff, to pick out who is very likely to help you, find someone who doesn't look like they're rushing to their work or like their next meeting. Someone who looks more relaxed and, they don't have, headphones on them, And honestly, when in doubt, walk into a konbini, and if the cashier is not busy, maybe they can help you a little bit. That's my last resort when it comes to asking for help, but Oh yeah, at the station though, if you're lost at the station, there's usually a staff there at the gate that can really help you. 8 out of 10 times I went to like the information booth at the station, they speak some English, so you'll be okay. They're really helpful and they know how to get to places. And of course, especially if you're traveling for Fest, there will be many other Hololive fans who travel along with you. So, maybe you can make some new friends who are more well-versed in traveling to Japan. Or maybe they're new and you happen to tune in to Taco Travel Tips. happen to listen to Taco Travel Tips and you can get lost together. When you're in Japan, always have your passport with you in person. Very important. It is your ticket to not being in big trouble by the police if they randomly decide to ask you for identification. It is the law for a foreigner to carry your passport with you always. Not the copy, not the photocopied version, it's the actual physical passport. Protect your passport at all costs. Put it in like a Ziploc bag or some sort of waterproof bag or something. I don't recommend those like sleeve passport sleeves or whatever they're called, passport covers. I don't suggest those because there will be a lot of times when you travel where you have to take out your passport from those covers and you don't want the really important pages to get ruined, because there will be times, and I've heard stories of people who get denied of their flights because they have damaged pages and they cannot verify their passport, etc. Yeah, missing pages, etc. It's gonna make your passport invalid. The really important page is like your identification page, because all the pages that you usually scan and stuff, they have little sensors or whatever in there. Make sure that it is safe. But even if it gets damaged, do try and see if you can get some. Well, it's also good to know where your country's embassy is in, Japan. Just in case, if you're a paranoid traveler like me. Speaking of passport though, if you do want to get some stuff tax-free, man, I have so many tips for traveling in Japan, you have no idea. I could do this all day. You could get stuff tax-free. Like some places will have a tax-free counter. Places like that a lot of, I guess, tourists go to and shop. You will need your passport for that. I do think the tax-free process has changed since the last time I have used it. Before, you were able to get the discount right at the counter after you do all the process of the tax-free stuff. Technically, you're not supposed to use the stuff that you bought tax-free while you're in Japan. So if you do want to use whatever you buy while you're in Japan, I suggest you don't get it tax-free. But if you're just buying it to bring back home, then it's fine. I think now you just get a QR code or something at the counter, and then you go to the airport and then you do the rest of the stuff there. Other than just the tax-free stuff, if you do shop at certain department stores or like, big shopping malls, there are different brands of shopping malls. They will have their own points program, or if they really like giving tourists and foreigners discounts, they sometimes might have a foreigner discount card that you can use in any of the stores in that department store. You could try and check out their information center or customer service counter, and they might have signs saying you can also get a different discount card other than getting tax-free stuff. So be on the lookout for those little posters and stuff when you're shopping, because I know some places offer like a 5% discount card and stuff. You will need your passport and stuff to prove that you're a foreigner, because they check the visa, little sticker, tourist visa thing, to make sure that you are actually a foreigner and not someone who is living abroad in Japan. That's my little taco travel tips while I drink this soup. Anyways, okay, I am done now. I finished half of the soup. I'm full, so I'm gonna stop. But